You're watching ABC7 News at 7.
Many of the people that were quoted said they never said that. They never said that. And I actually said in the tweet this morning, I said, look, if I spoke that way, I'd never be president.
Bob Woodward's book, a devastating account of President Trump, unhinged, and a cabinet taking extraordinary efforts to protect the nation from the president many of you voted for. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohen, and welcome to ABC7 at 7. We'll have more on Bob Woodward's book, Fear, Trump in the White House in a moment. But first, our top stories at 7. 17 years ago today, another president, George W. Bush, was sitting in a Sarasota elementary school when terrorists attacked the World Trade Center. That classroom at Booker Elementary is now part of American history. ABC7's Jess Dowdrick talked to the teachers with President Bush when he heard the news that changed everything.
It's part of history I didn't want to be a part of.
Room 301 at Emma E. Booker Elementary School looks like any other classroom. Today, it was full of students learning how to spell. R-A-K-E. R-A-K-E. But rewind 17 years.
Great to meet everybody.
And it's a historic classroom. The one where President George W. Bush sat and read to the students on September 11th, 2001.
We have been selected because of the reading gains our kids had made.
That's when this happened, and President Bush learned about the attacks on the Twin Towers.
But the fact that President Bush stayed and read and allowed the kids to read to him, and he interacted just a little bit, those 3 to 5 minutes, maybe even longer that he was here, really made a big impact on our school.
At first, no one knew what was going on.
It was a little surreal, like, okay, did something really happen? Because many of us thought, okay, it was just a plane crash, because they happen often.
Then they turned on the TVs and learned the truth. President Bush quickly addressed the nation from the school, then was rushed out.
He turned around, to leave, and I remember seeing the look of sadness, of just grief-stricken on his face.
It caused a bit of panic, parents wondering if the school and president were the next targets.
We were trying to keep parents calm, let them know your children are safe, they're all okay, but then we had parents that just showed up on campus.
Today, a bookcase full of memorabilia reminds students and teachers of the role their school played in the history of 9/11. A scrapbook detailing that day is a part of that, and this plaque hangs outside of room 301.
And when people ask, where were you when the Twin Towers and the Pentagon were attacked? We will say, we were with the president when he found out. It's a funny feeling to be part of history like that. It's a sadder feeling to know why.
As the 2018 hurricane season reaches its peak with 3 named storms spinning into the Atlantic Ocean, property insurers say they're prepared as if a storm were to hit Florida this year. Last year's Hurricane Irma resulted in roughly 1 million claims in the state, causing almost $10 billion worth of losses. Insurance companies want to remind customers to double-check their coverage before a storm approaches to avoid unexpected costs following a disaster. Hurricane deductibles are often high and are typically separate from standard claims. Additionally, flood claims are not covered by homeowners or renters' policies.
Learn from the past disasters. The biggest lesson we should have learned from last year is the importance of being insured to the rebuilding cost of your home, not the real estate value, the rebuilding cost, and also the very important need to have flood insurance.
Christian says about 60% of Florida homeowners have no flood insurance policy to cover losses from rising water. And a reminder, while Hurricane Florence is not impacting the Suncoast, there is still 2.5 months left in the hurricane season. If you still need to get a plan in place, just go to our website, mysuncoast.com. Under the Weather tab, you will find a link to our 1-hour hurricane special, Surviving the Storm, as well as printable 2018 Hurricanes Guide. Now let's head over to ABC7's chief meteorologist Bob Harrigan with the first alert forecast. Bob.
It's going to have an indirect impact on folks here along the Suncoast. There's a lot of residents here who have homes and vacation homes up in North Carolina and even in South Carolina, and they are going to feel the crunch there as far as that goes. And a lot of students from here that are attending the schools up there, Duke and North Carolina State as well, are coming back home here to take shelter from this massive storm, which has now grown again this afternoon up to Category 4 status. It's gone through that secondary eye wall replacement, and that means it's only going to get bigger and wider as far as the wind field goes. It will expand. classic stadium effect, as you see right there with the visible satellite imagery showing the multiple vortices on the system. This is going to have far-reaching impacts as well on flights. If you have flights out of even here, they could be delayed or even canceled as a result of this storm moving in. It looks like late Thursday and Friday, and it's not going to leave very quickly. This thing's going to stick around for possibly 5 days over the Carolina coast, or possibly even up to Virginia right now. The system is getting better organized. Conditions are favorable for development over the top of it. So it could get to a Category 5 hurricane, the strongest category, beginning tomorrow. And top winds now at 140, gusts up to 165. And look what happens by tomorrow. Winds sustained 155, just 1 mile an hour short of a Category 5 hurricane. Gusts up to 190 miles an hour. It's gathering a lot of water near its center, too, because it has a long way to go here. And so storm surge is going to be catastrophic. We're talking above 15 feet high near the center and to the right of the center. And then as it makes landfall, it looks like sometime late Thursday or the Friday, it may go down to a Category 3, but more than likely it'll be a 4 as it makes landfall. And then it just kind of sits around and spins. And notice this cone here has really expanded. It could be anywhere inside this cone, so it doesn't necessarily have to be right here. It could be down here into South Carolina. In fact, the GFS forecast model is suggesting that the storm is just going to hang offshore and then drop south into South Carolina, then move on inshore. So again, this area in red that you see, those are the hurricane warnings that are in effect from the South Santee River all the way northward to the border of North Carolina and Virginia at this point, up near Duck, North Carolina. Now, as far as we are concerned, we're going to see this system stay to the north of us. That means we'll have high pressure kind of hanging with. This is the latest GFS, by the way. Just kind of sits around. This is Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and even into Sunday, just kind of hanging on right there, and then eventually moving on into Monday. Well, much more coming up later in this newscast. You want to download our ABC7 weather app, just go to your store or go to our website even and click on the app tab at the top of the screen and download it yourself and stay abreast of what's happening with these storms. Alan?
Thanks a lot, Bob. The White House held its first press briefing in 19 days yesterday. The main focus of it was Bob Woodward's book and a recent anonymous op-ed in the New York Times. CNN's Jeff Zeleny reports.
The White House tonight trying to move beyond a war within its own walls.
It's frankly, I think, sad and pathetic that a gutless anonymous source could receive so much attention.
It's been 19 days since White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders had appeared at the podium. Aides even cleaning it before she took questions in the briefing room for the first time since August 22nd. She wasted little time blasting Bob Woodward and his new book, Fear, that chronicles deep dysfunction inside the West Wing.
To not even take the time to get a $10 fact checker to call around and verify that some of these quotes were happening. When no effort was made, it seems like a very careless and reckless way to write a book.
Yet even as she tried to downplay the book, it's the 1-2 punch of Woodward and the anonymous op-ed in the New York Times that's enraging the president, who called the book a joke, just another assault against me. A parade of top administration officials have come forward to say it wasn't them, with the vice president taking the extraordinary step of volunteering to submit to a lie detector test.
I would agree to take it in a heartbeat and would submit to any review of the administration.
Do you know if the president believes these denials that have been coming in from some of his top advisors, or does he believe that it's someone from within? And does he believe that lie detector tests should be issued as the vice president volunteered to do on Sunday?
No lie detectors are being used or talked about or looked at as a possibility. Frankly, the White House and the staff here are focused on doing our jobs.
On the eve of the book's official release, Woodward defended his findings.
But there's a war on truth by him. And he says, oh, these are unnamed sources. But these are not unnamed incidents, specific people on specific dates.
As for the top officials who've denied specific critiques of the president, from Chief of Staff John Kelly to Defense Secretary James Mattis, Woodward said this.
They are not telling the truth.
Tonight, a new CNN poll finds the president's approval rating has fallen 6 points in the last month and now stands at a new low among independent voters. Overall, just 36% approve of the way the president is handling his job, down from 42% in August. Among independents, the drop has been sharper, from 47% approval last month to 31% now. Only 32% find the president trustworthy. Yet nearly 7 in 10 Americans give the economy high marks, a ray of optimism for Republicans 2 months before the midterm elections. The president crowed about the economy in a series of tweets today, declaring it so good, perhaps the best in our country's history. Yet he incorrectly stated its exact strength, writing, "The GDP rate, 4.2%, is higher than the unemployment rate, 3.9%, for the first time in over 100 years. But Kevin Hassett, chairman of the White House Council of Economic Advisors, said that wasn't true.
What is true is that it's the highest in 10 years. And at some point, somebody probably conveyed it to him, adding a zero to that, and they shouldn't have done that. And again, I'm not the chairman of the Council of Twitter Advisors.
In a moment, he wrote his own book about the presidency, and he didn't write the book, but he has plenty to say about Bob Woodward's devastating account of President Trump. The Trapezoid is next.
Hurricane season is here, and so is the official Suncoast Hurricane Guide from ABC7. This essential resource arms you with vital information you need to protect your family and property when severe weather threatens the Suncoast, including how to create your readiness plan and survival kit, shelter locations, what to do with pets, and important phone numbers. Visit mysuncoast.com and download the official Suncoast Hurricane Guide from ABC7. Brought to you by Batteries Plus, the Florida Lottery, and Sarasota Glass and Mirror.
I heard about the Dotoli Cancer Center through friends of mine who had been treated here and were very pleased with the treatment.
If there is prostate cancer, we at the Dotoli Cancer Center will find it using 3D color flow Doppler ultrasound.
And that helped precisely identify where my cancer was. I can tell you that you will not find a finer, more professional team of clinicians anywhere in the world.
Attention. On January 1st, 2018, the United States Tax Cut Act officially became law. This law also changes Obamacare. If you are uninsured or struggling to afford your current health insurance, there is now immediate relief. Health insurance that's not high-priced Obamacare is now available. Call the Health Insurance Helpline now. It's free. The cost for health insurance has been a serious problem in America, but now the law has changed. So many people don't get the insurance they need because they just don't call. Don't spend money you don't have to spend. Call now. It's free. If you are uninsured or unable to pay for ACA coverage, call the Health Insurance Helpline now. Get what you deserve. Call to see if you qualify for health care or dental coverage that starts immediately. Don't delay. Call now. It's free. Call 800-307-8167, 800-307-8167. Call 800-307-8167 now.
Call to see if you qualify to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan right now. At Humana, we believe great things are ahead of you when you start with healthy. And part of staying healthy means choosing the right Medicare plan. Humana can help. With Original Medicare, you're covered for hospital stays and doctor office visits when you're sick, but keep in mind you'll have to pay a deductible for each. A Medicare supplement plan can cover your deductibles and coinsurance, but you may pay higher premiums than you do with other plans, and prescription drug coverage isn't included. But with an all-in-one Humana Medicare Advantage plan, you could get all that coverage plus Part D prescription drug benefits, all for an affordable monthly plan premium, and in some areas, no plan premium. It's all described in this free book. Call for yours and discover how an all-in-one Medicare Advantage plan from Humana could save you money. There is no obligation and the book is free. Call or go online right now.
Welcome back. You could understand why President Trump is upset, but if the president wants to get into a fight with Bob Woodward over credibility, well, good luck with that. Woodward has won 2 Pulitzers, the first for a little story he broke which became known as Watergate. His work described by his arch-rival newspaper, the New York Times, as the single greatest reporting effort of all time. He has written about every president from Nixon to now Trump. In doing so, he has uncovered the good, the bad, and the ugly about each of them. One of them, well, while no journalist is above getting it wrong sometimes, no one has seriously questioned the integrity and the honesty of and overall accuracy of Bob Woodward's reporting. So when Woodward reports to the nation that, quote, people need to wake up to what's going on in the Oval Office, well, we ignore him at our own peril. And joining us for more is Mark Weston, who has written his own book about the presidency, the runner-up presidency, and Rod Thompson, a longtime journalist himself, now of the RevolutionaryAct.com. We'll hear from both of them in just a moment, but our conversation on the Bob Woodward's book, Fear in the White House, begins right after we get a check on the First Alert forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harry. Bob.
Well, some showers and storms have been scattered around. Look for more tomorrow afternoon and evening. Those showers and storms will progress toward the coast later on in the day. They're starting to wind on down. There's still some outflow boundaries scattered about, some rainfall earlier near Venice and along I-75, some light rainfall there, a bigger shower and a thunderstorm or two right there near I-75 near Northport, to the east of Northport as well. Well, in the tropics, we have, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 separate areas that we are watching right now, very active to say the least. This one being the biggest storm of them all. This is Florence, and although we're starting to see Isaac show a little bit more intensity to it as well. This is the Florence radius of the wind, and this is going to be a huge storm. This is not a Charlie, a Category 4 Charlie. This is going to be a huge storm in terms of its wind field, simply because it's going through this getting weaker, getting stronger, getting weaker and stronger. Each time it does that, it just expands the winds. The area in yellow that you see there are tropical storm force winds, and that covers the entire coast of North Carolina, and there's a chance it may not even make landfall. It may get close and just kind of skirt the coast for 2 days. There are hurricane warnings up, as I mentioned, for the entire North Carolina coast, all the way down to the Santee River there in South Carolina. Life-threatening flood possibility here. This is a European rain forecast. You'll notice South Carolina getting the brunt of it, and that's a result of the recent run, again, of the European and the GFS, starting to show a little bit more action down into South Carolina near Charleston. With the heaviest rainfall there, with some isolated areas up to 30 inches. The worst case scenario, similar to Harvey, just kind of hanging out there right near the coast, continuing to bring storm after storm into the same area for possibility of 3 days. This is Isaac, and it's getting a little bit better organized. You can see the purple there showing up, indicating some stronger cells. Hurricane warnings will more than likely go up across parts of the northern portions of the Lesser Antilles as it makes its way off to the west. It will eventually get weakened down to a tropical storm, it looks like, as it makes its way into the Caribbean. There are two schools of thought here as far as where it's going to go. You can see that one school of thought is off to the west, and another one is that Florence is going to draw it up to the north prior to Cuba. There's not much taking it toward Florida at this point, and I don't expect it to. I think more likely it will stay on that westerly course, where it will go into Central America as a tropical storm. This one, on the other hand, has a chance of developing a real good one at 70%, and it could get strong as it makes its way toward Texas. It's not going to have a lot of time to work with, so it's not going to be a major hurricane, but it certainly could be a strong tropical storm or possibly on the low end of the hurricane scale. Right now it's 87 degrees. And it feels like temperature at 96. Winds are out of the north-northwest. Now that wind will switch around more tomorrow to an easterly direction. So good news as far as the red tide sufferers go. It'll be blowing offshore through the majority of the day, with the afternoon a little west coast sea breeze developing. High today was 93, and the low this morning was 76. That's well above the average on both those numbers, at least the high was. It's normally 89 degrees, so pretty hot day today for this time of year. What we have is a high pressure ridge right now over the Great Lakes. This high is going to build in just to the north of Florence and keep it suppressed to the south. Typically, storms at this latitude get picked up by troughs or cold fronts, if you will, that move through and then carry it off into the open waters of the Atlantic, but there's nothing like that to the west of there. High pressure dominates. There's a weak trough right there, but that's about it. So as this high pressure moves in, it's just going to keep Florence stuck, and it looks like it'll be stuck right by North Carolina and South Carolina. Temperatures for highs tomorrow, it will be hot in Denver, 93, 81 though in Kansas City, and 70 in Boston. For boaters, winds will be out of the east, turning to the northwest at 5 to 10 knots. Here's the extended forecast then. 40% chance for late day storms, both on Wednesday and Thursday. Most of it will be east of I-75, but a few could get to the coast as well. Less of a chance for rain on Saturday and Sunday. Al will be back with his guest right after this.
Clogged pores are disgusting. Introducing DermaSuction, the easy way to suck that yuck out of your pores. DermaSuction removes blackheads and dirt from your pores. Just look at everything it extracts. The secret's the gentle vacuum action. Watch as DermaSuction extracts so much yuck, leaving your skin feeling clean and youthful.
The gunk that had been pulled out, I was pretty horrified, but better in the DermaSuction than on my face.
It's almost addictive because you can see all this stuff coming out of your skin that you don't even really know is there.
Call now to order your DermaSuction for just $19.99. We'll also include our small and large body probes, the Sonic Microdermabrasion probe, and the handy travel case, all absolutely free. Order now and you can double the offer. Just pay a separate fee. You can get all this, but you have to order now.
Call 1-800-213-9301. That's 1-800-213-9301. Or visit dermasuction.com. So call 1-800-213-9301 now.
Did you know you could get life insurance for less than 32 cents a day? With guaranteed acceptance whole life insurance through TrueStage, you can get up to $25,000 in protection with a single phone call, and you cannot be turned down for any reason. Even if you have health problems or are living on a fixed income, guaranteed acceptance whole life insurance policies could work for you, with prices starting at less than 32 cents a day. That's as low as $9.40 a month. TrueStage can help free your family from immediate financial stress when you're gone.
Utility bills, mortgages, car payments, those are a lot of things that can add up pretty fast.
My mom didn't have life insurance and the cost all fell on me. And that's expensive. We're still paying for that.
Yeah, we're still paying for that.
Call 1-800-218-4991 now. In one phone call, you can help prepare your family with protection amounts up to $25,000. There are no medical tests or health questions. And remember, you cannot be turned down for any reason. In fact, TrueStage policies are already protecting over 18 million Americans. And rates are designed to be affordable, starting at less than 32 cents a day. That's as low as $9.40 a month. Plus, your price will never increase and your benefit will never decrease.
When I leave, everything will be taken care of for them.
Call 1-800-218-4991 now for a free, no-obligation quote. TrueStage offers plans to fit your budget with prices starting at less than 32 cents a day. Help protect your family from immediate financial burdens after you're gone with guaranteed acceptance whole life insurance through TrueStage. Call 1-800-218-4991 now.
Welcome back. We are talking about Bob Woodward's new and alarming account of President Trump, and joining us for more are Mark Weston, who has written his own book about the presidency, the runner-up presidency, and Rod Thompson, a longtime journalist, himself now of the revolutionaryact.com. And Mark, you ran out this morning and you got the book and you almost read it to cover. What's your main takeaway?
Besides what's already out there of his own Secretary of Defense saying he has the comprehension level of a 5th or 6th grader, or the chief of staff saying he was an idiot. What floored me was his lack of a work ethic. He apparently shows up for work at 11 or 11:30 in the morning, and one of the reasons is he watches 6 to 8 hours of television a day. Even on a sunny Saturday at his golf club, he spends 6 to 8 hours watching TV.
But that brings up two very different issues. We could get into the debate about, some of those who he talks about saying that they never talked to him, but also the work ethic. Let's start with there, Rod, because I would imagine that a lot of the Trump supporters say they don't care about the work ethic because look at the results.
Well, the results are really what matters for a president, and that certainly is true. Work ethic doesn't really matter unless, I'm an employer and you're my employee, then your work ethic matters to me. But as far as with the president, we care about the results for the country. I don't know exactly where even that would come from, because on the campaign trail, when you were comparing him to Hillary Clinton, he was running circles around her as far as number of events he was doing in a day, day after day, week after week, month after month for the long haul. That strikes me as somebody that can put in long hours. We know he gets up early because of when he's tweeting, so we know he's up early.
If that's the case, you could ask, well, why doesn't he put in those hours in the Oval Office, actually reading about what he is talking about?
So I don't know, and we'll get into the credibility of Bob Woodward's book here at some point. I don't know why. I know a lot of the TV time he's watching news. A lot of it's Fox News, but clearly it's also MSNBC and others. So a lot of that TV time, he's also watching news programs. So it's not like he's watching cartoons or something like the suggestion with the 5th grade comprehension level, which was denied.
But the deputy chief of staff said don't put more than 1 page on his desk. Even if he glances at it, he won't read very much of it. This is a president who absolutely does not read.
Why don't we take a look at what the president himself has said about Woodward's book in an interview just a day ago.
You shouldn't be talking about that right now because it doesn't matter, but I really appreciate their statement. Their statement was excellent, and they both set out beautiful, which shows that the book is just a piece of fiction.
All right, so we get into this now, and Mark, and I'll start with you. From General Kelly, the Chief of Staff, to the Secretary of Defense, to Gary Cohn, to name it, they're saying we never said those things. As somebody who's a journalist and an author yourself, you know, how do you respond to that?
Bob Woodward is the author of 2 books about the Nixon administration, 2 books about the Clinton administration, 5 books about the 2 Bush administrations, and 2 books about the Obama administration, and they have all stood the test of time. You haven't seen officials from, you know, do you get something wrong in a 360-page book? Sure, but overall, it's over the test of time. These books are thought to be true accounts of these administrations. And so to say suddenly that this man has not written a credible book is really wishful thinking on Trump supporters' part.
Rod, I know you want to respond to that, but guess what?
Time.
We have to pay the bills. We are just getting warmed up. Our conversation on Bob Woodward's book, Fear, Trump in the White House, will continue after a quick break. Stay with us.
The following message is brought to you by Mesobook.com.
People who have been diagnosed with mesothelioma have many questions. How did I get this disease? What are my treatment options? How will this affect my loved ones? You need answers, which is why we offer a free book written by medical professionals who have treated mesothelioma.
Call toll-free at 1-800-777-1366 or go to Mesobook.com.
Sarasota Oxygen and CPAP is the largest locally owned CPAP supply company in the area. Is it time to replace your old equipment? The staff at Sarasota Oxygen and CPAP can show you the most up-to-date CPAP equipment and supplies to meet your sleep apnea needs, including portable travel devices and the SoClean automatic CPAP sanitizer. We serve all of Southwest Florida, giving the highest quality of care with the finest CPAP equipment. Please visit our website, sarasotacpap.com.
Gettle's got what you're looking for at Gettle.com. 17 new car brands, over 1,000 used vehicles, prices and payments you can afford. Credit help if you need it, and they pay cash for your old car. Plus, Gettle Pre-Owned Certified Plus means buying with peace of mind. Need service? Gettle's got that too. Gettle's got it. Visit Gettle.com.
Being empowered starts with getting informed, looking closer. 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer in her lifetime. But many of us don't know there are different types of breast cancer with different characteristics. That was me. Learning about the specifics of my diagnosis gave me the confidence to make informed treatment decisions with my doctor. This meant everything to me and my family. So take another look. Ask another question. Learn more at notonetype.org.
Every time you purchase a fishing license or register your boat, you're helping to preserve our nation's coastlines, lakes, rivers, and streams, protecting memories for generations to come. Learn how your participation in boating and fishing can help the environment at takemefishing.org/conservation.
Imagine a world filled with pillow fights, playgrounds, and the search for the perfect climbing tree. Every kid deserves that world, but 1 in 5 kids in America struggle with hunger. At No Kid Hungry, we're committed to creating a world where every kid eats healthy food every day. We raise funds, we help families, and we lift up communities.
Who else has been taking your prescriptions? Keep your medicine and your family safe and secure. Mind your meds. To learn how we can help, visit the Partnership for Drug-Free Kids at drugfree.org.
You're watching ABC7 News at 7:30.
Welcome back. We are talking about Bob Woodward's new and alarming account of President Trump. And joining us for more are Mark Weston, who has written his own book about the presidency, the runner-up presidency, and Rod Thompson, a long-time journalist himself, now of the revolutionaryact.com. So, Mark, let me ask you, we have a hurricane bearing down on the Carolinas right now. It is the 17th anniversary of 9/11. We have so many things on our mind right now. What did you read today in this book that has just come out is so alarming to you that we need to be talking about it tonight?
Well, it's already been out that Gary Cohn, his economic advisor, removed a piece of paper from the desk in the Oval Office because he didn't want Trump signing a letter to the South Koreans that would have ended free trade between South Korea and the United States. He felt that this would also alter the military relationship. And General Mattis was also, its defense secretary, was also against foregoing the free trade agreement with South Korea. And one of the things that he argued was, if we have, and Trump all throughout the book is always wanting to send the troops in South Korea home. He doesn't want the American troops there. He feels it's a waste of money. And General Mattis pointed out, with troops in South Korea, we can detect a North Korean missile launch 7 seconds after the launch and do something about it. If we don't have troops in South Korea and we have to watch it from Guam or Alaska, we don't see the launch until it's already up there for 15 minutes.
So, Rod, you hear these comments from Mattis, from Gary Cohn, from everybody else in there, and do you get concerned hearing this?
Not particularly, no. For one thing, in the biggest picture, we always know that Trump is an extraordinarily unusual president in his methodologies, and his personality, et cetera. You know, I have certainly my issues with some of the way he goes about things and with his personal life. Having said that, my concern more is with the Bob Woodward book. His reputation, which I dispute is not, and his credibility is not actually in without some disrepute going along the lines from other journalists, but also what it means to the media credibility in the bigger picture. But in Bob Woodward himself, whether you go back to his Belushi book, all the way through to when he did the CIA book and he had Bob Casey sitting up out of a coma and confessing, which he stands by to this day, and that is the most laughable thing. But there's more, and I wanted to read something because, you know, Seymour Hersh, New York Times, multiple Pulitzer Prize winner, had got so frustrated with Woodward and his lazy and uncareful ways of doing journalism and of doing his books. He says, and I cleaned it up, "It hurts me to believe that he's in my effing profession." So Bob Woodward has real credibility issues among other journalists, and part of it is the way he uses anonymous sources.
You know, people who know journalists and journalism will say that Seymour Hersh has done a couple of things in his career that people take issue. But, you know, and I'm sorry, Greg, our producer, because I didn't put this on the screen here, but the New York Times in its review of the book said today, his utter devotion to just the facts, digging and compulsory interviews preserved on tape for his book make him a reliable narrator. In the age of fake facts and corrosive tweets, fake news, Woodward is a true gold standard. Let's take a look for a moment in terms of what Bob Woodward says about all the talk about people who are quoted in the book saying, no, I never said that. Let's take a look.
One key person who's in office called me and said, everyone knows what you've said here is true. It's 1,000% correct. And then this person has said some public things that contradict that.
I would imagine a lot of people who are in the administration are in a tough place when it comes to the quotes and the stories that are in the book.
Again, we have to take Bob Woodward's word for it. And the problem here is that he uses what's called deep background sourcing, which is where not only do you not attribute it, you don't attribute it in a way, you make sure it cannot be traced back. So you don't do any identifying markers on the source for your thing. That's the deep background as opposed to just general background. That's how Woodward does these books. The problem there is there's zero accountability. So you always end up with these situations. We either have to take Bob Woodward's word for it, and there are people who love him and people that hate him based on credibility issues within the profession, or we have to believe those who also have mixed motives for whether they would tell him him one thing privately and say something else publicly. So I can't take this book and say, oh my gosh, look what's really happening, because this book does not in any way persuade me that, oh my gosh, this is really happening.
Mark, is this, I mean, in terms of your reading of the book, and you are a well-known author and journalist in your own right, and you have followed Bob Woodward's career, who has more credibility? Or is this an issue of Woodward's credibility versus Trump's credibility?
I'm old enough to remember the Watergate scandal when the Nixon administration attacked Woodward and Bernstein of the Washington Post every day. And then Woodward and Bernstein turned out to be right, and the Nixon administration turned out to be lying. You should also know that Fred Barnes, a regular commentator on Fox News, says that Bob Woodward is the greatest pure reporter of our generation, perhaps of all time.
Right, there are mixed opinions on Bob Woodward. My point is that those opinions are mixed. It's not all salutary across the board for Bob Woodward, and because of that, and because of this sourcing issue, and honestly, Alan, the Bob Woodward book is one thing, and it'll be done, it'll be taken by some people. I don't see this book as persuading anybody, changing anybody's mind, but it goes to the question of the credibility of the media with anonymous sources, and even to the New York Times choosing to use an opinion piece by an anonymous source, which is highly unusual. This is the sort of thing that really cuts into a credibility gap.
Mark, I wanted to give you a chance to respond to that, and then I have a question.
Well, you also have Michael Wolff's book, Fire and Fury, and Omarosa Newman's book, Unhinged, which basically all three, but that may be, but all three are giving the same picture of the White House. They're fairly consistent.
So, Mark, that brings us to the question, are people going to take out of this book everything that they would in terms of the other books? Either you don't like the president and you're finding ammunition for that in Woodward's book, or you are a true believer in the president and what he is doing, and really nothing that anybody could say, whether it's a Pulitzer Prize winning a reporter or not, is really going to make any difference.
Well, you get a sense in this book that Trump, and probably rightly so, has great faith in his own intuitive instincts, and he apparently doesn't like to prepare because he feels that his off the cuff will be better than if he had prepared for something. But most issues in the world are complex. There aren't that many totally black and white issues. John Kennedy used to say, I never have to decide between the good and the bad. I have to decide between the bad and the really bad. And so you need a president who can have some nuance.
Rod, let me ask you this question. People who believe in this president and support him are unlikely to change their opinions by this book. You know Democrats and people don't like him, or you're not going to find any reason that they're going to like the president. The fight is over the middle. And if you look at the recent public opinion surveys, his approval rating has been going down. I think it's like 6 points within the last month. Putting your political hat on for a moment, is that what you're concerned about?
Oh, absolutely. No, that's a big problem, because that can roll over into the midterms, right? That can have a splashover effect. But I have a couple of concerns there. Number one is that it's not really super surprising to me, because he has been hammered with this sort of stuff, rolling one on top of another on top of another. And yeah, he does self-inflicted wounds all over the place. There's no doubt about that.
Is he being hammered, or are these wounds self-inflicted?
Both, because he's being held to a standard, a level of scrutiny that nobody else would. There is no way, if the New York Times had been provided an anonymous opinion piece that would have been trashing Barack Obama in the same way, for one thing, it wouldn't happen because Obama required a whole lot more loyalty, apparently, than Trump can at least get.
Well,
the New York Times would never have run it.
Because Obama didn't raise the same kind of questions in terms of basic competency that this president
It wouldn't have happened because the New York Times has been a very partisan paper, but it has been dramatically more so since November 2016. And even within the profession, within some of my colleagues in the profession get a little bit embarrassed at both the New York Times and CNN while holding still fast to the rest of the profession.
Mark, I want to give you a chance to respond.
Well, the Times was very tough on Bill Clinton. I can remember reading the paper and just getting angry.
It's a different paper now, I think. I do think so, Mark.
Well, I think the country as a whole is more polarized. When you think of the Clinton-Dole election in 1996, you know, most Democrats thought Bob Dole was too conservative, but basically a good guy. In the second term, Bill Clinton was somewhat popular. There hadn't been any sex scandal yet, so most Republicans could live with Bill Clinton. It's much more polarized now. There's no doubt about it.
All right. We have to take another quick break, but we'll be back for final thoughts in just a moment, so stay with us.
You
like to pay less. That's why you made Honda Accord the best-selling midsize car in America. Get the redesigned Accord, the North American Car of the Year, or Civic, a KBB.com Best Buy for less than the competition. Like SUVs and trucks? Get Motor Trend's SUV of the Year, CRV, the 8-passenger Pilot or Ridgeline truck for up to $4,240 less today at your local Honda dealer.
Did you know you could get life insurance for less than 32 cents a day? With guaranteed acceptance whole life insurance through TrueStage, you can get up to $25,000 in protection with a single phone call. TrueStage can help free your family from immediate financial stress when you're gone.
Utility bills, mortgages, car payments, those are a lot of things that can add up pretty fast.
And even if you're on a fixed income, prices fit your budget, starting at less than 32 cents a day. Plus, your price will never increase and your benefit will never decrease. And with no medical tests or health questions, you cannot be turned down for any reason. Call 1-800-842-7189. Now, for a free, no-obligation quote, TrueStage offers plans to fit your budget. Help protect your family from immediate financial burdens after you're gone with guaranteed acceptance whole life insurance through TrueStage. Call 1-800-842-7189 now.
If you think it's hot outside, just wait until you see even hotter savings inside. Only at Rugs As Art Hot Summer Savings Sale event will you find the lowest prices on a vast selection of stunning rugs, furniture accents, and accessories. This special event only happens once a year, so hurry in before the best selections are gone. The Hot Summer Savings event ends soon, so don't miss out on the best prices ever. Rugs As Art, Sarasota's only area rug superstore.
The day you lose your strength is the day you lose your independence. Muscle is lost with age, affecting your energy, balance, and mobility. Before you know it, you're depending on others just to get through the day. But you can reverse and prevent muscle loss. Introducing MyoHealth, a revolutionary proven approach to increased muscle strength and function in as little as 30 days. Live life on your terms with more energy and confidence.
After a serious health issue put me down, MyoHealth's getting me back up again.
I'm doing activities that I haven't done for a long time. It really works.
MyoHealth is a safe, natural dietary supplement, the result of decades of research and 24 human clinical studies. You can live stronger at any age with greater strength, mobility, balance, and energy. Call or go online now and take the MyoHealth 30-Day Strength Challenge.
And our guests join us right now for final thoughts. So, Mark, you've read through this book, and I know how you probably feel about Bob Woodward here, but considering that there have been other books, whether it's by Omarosa or Michael Wolff, that have had similar bombastic accusations, but been easily, talked about by the president's supporters because of the problems with the authors. Is this just going to be another book that, along those lines, or is this going to be a book that really kind of, stays in our history like, his Watergate books?
Both. It will stay in history. It will be a book that people will consult for decades, even 100 years from now. But no, it won't convince Trump supporters. They're going to need smoking guns from the Mueller investigation if they exist. Short of that, I don't think they'll change their minds.
Hey, Rob, I'll ask you the same question. And of course, the Mueller investigation is, first thing, the book doesn't take on the Mueller investigation and Russian collusion or obstruction of justice. This is about the president and his time in the Oval Office here. And the question is, and I know that you've been critical of the president in terms of his tweets and so forth, but when you hear consistently in terms of the way he makes his decisions and how he treats his staff and what the staff reportedly thinks it has to do, does it give you any kind of pause?
Not a lot, for a couple reasons. I remember when, I don't mind a president who steps way back and just does sort of the big picture and doesn't try and get into the minutia of understanding everything. We've had, I think Jimmy Carter was a great example of how that doesn't work, where he took care of everything down to the tennis court schedules at the White House, right? And he was a pretty smart man, pretty good man, but he was a terrible president. Part of the reason he was a terrible president was he needed to understand the minutia of every single detail that he was dealing with. I think far better managers, the larger the corporation, the larger the organization, the more they can delegate to others and just give sort of big picture direction, the better. And it's been working.
So Mark, let me ask you, what is the difference between Ronald Reagan, who was a big picture guy, and Donald Trump, who is a huge picture guy?
I have a very conservative friend from California who dealt with Ronald Reagan as a governor and was amazed at how prepared Ronald Reagan was on this particular issue. The best management books say that, yes, you shouldn't get into the details of everything, but then one or two places here and there you should get into extreme detail. And the good leader will know when to go into extreme detail and when to totally trust your subordinates. Donald Trump is not capable of getting into detail on anything.
Gentlemen, I'm afraid that we have to leave it right there. We want to thank our guest, Mark Weston, who has written his own book about the presidency, The Runner-Up Presidency, and Rod Thompson, a longtime journalist himself, now of the RevolutionaryAct.com. When we return. The nation mourns for the tragedy that took place 17 years ago today, where thousands of innocent lives were lost on September 11th. But right now, let's get a final check on our first alert forecast from Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Good evening, everyone. We are watching showers and storms scattered about, mainly to our south right now. We'll take a look right now, if we can, at the tower cam. We call for tower cam and take a look at a gorgeous sunset tonight. Over Sarasota Bay, there it is. Some clouds around, some pinks, some yellows, some oranges as well. You can see that quite clearly. Nice out there, and different contrast to what they're expecting to see in the Carolinas. We'll go back to the radar now and show you the activity now down to our south, getting close to Punta Gorda, and you can see that activity working its way along I-75. It is drifting to the northwest right now. We've had a few showers around earlier today along I-75. You can see a little activity there. It was sporadic. Look for a little bit more action tomorrow afternoon, and some of that could be strong. Well, this is a strong hurricane, a major Category 4 hurricane, and looks as though it's headed toward the Carolinas. There has been a recent update on the GFS, or the United States Forecast Model, suggesting that it'll get close to North Carolina, then stay there, and drift off to the south, and then maybe inland in South Carolina, then drift back over North Carolina. Either way, this is going to be a devastating storm. There's no doubt about it. A storm surge, it could exceed 15 feet high. Already starting to pile up that water in advance of Florence, so that's going to be a big concern. And also 20-plus inches of rainfall now. They're anticipating the area in yellow. Notice this is South Carolina and into Georgia. This is the European forecast model now. So the European model suggesting there may be a little dip to the southwest as this storm approaches on Thursday night, Friday morning. Not out of the woods yet in Georgia or South Carolina for that matter. And here it comes. This is the GFS model showing the latest run. It approaches North Carolina, sits there for a day. There's Friday. There's Saturday. Here is a Sunday. It's still down in South Carolina, coming ashore there. And then sticking around even on Monday, bringing more rainfall into this area. If these play out, it's going to be historic as far as the amount of rainfall and flooding that will take place throughout the Carolinas. Well, Isaac is a storm that we would normally this time of year be very concerned about. East of the Caribbean, moving to the west, and typically this time of year those would blow up into a big storm, but it doesn't appear this one's going to do that. It is going to cause problems to the northern portion of the Lesser Antilles. Hurricane warnings will more than likely be issued soon. There's the forecast path and track, becoming a category almost 1. There could become a 1 right here, so more than likely they'll put hurricane warnings in effect, and then it continues on a westerly course. This is the best guess from the models that we've seen. Some other thought, or school of thought, is that Florence will actually draw Isaac up to the north prior to Cuba. While most of the others say that it's going to miss that, but now more and more likely, if Florence sticks around long enough and gets further south in latitude, this will become the player, as opposed to it just bypassing Florence altogether and heading west towards Central America. This one has no chance of hitting us either, as it makes its way off to the northwest in time. Real good chance of becoming the next named storm, which would be Joyce. And it's not going to have a lot of time to intensify, but it certainly could become a hurricane. Its invest 98 right now, or 95 right now, as it makes its way off toward the northwest over the next several days. So a lot to watch. Thankfully, nothing's going on here. And right now, it doesn't appear that any of the storms will have a huge impact on the west coast of Florida. Just some subtle impacts like increasing our clouds, changing our winds around more to an easterly direction. It's 87 right now. It's warm. It's still muggy out there. Not a lot of rain at the airport. Winds out of the east turning to the northwest at 5 to 10 knots and a light chop on the bays and inland waters. The 7-day forecast and better chance for scattered storms tomorrow afternoon and evening, even on Thursday. A little less action. There'll still be a few around on Friday. Weekend looks to be pretty good for us. A different story for the folks up north. Alan will be back with primetime headlines right after this.
Helping families with mesothelioma is all we do. My firm has been offering a free book on mesothelioma for over 10 years. Since that time, hundreds of people with mesothelioma have trusted us to represent them. We have local offices throughout the U.S. and there is no risk to you. Mesothelioma really is all we do. Call us at 1-800-485-6000. That's 1-800-485-6000. Or go to mesoonlylaw.com.
Call to see if you qualify to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan right now. At Humana, we believe great things are ahead of you when you start with healthy. And part of staying healthy means choosing the right Medicare plan. Humana can help. With Original Medicare, you're covered for hospital stays and doctor office visits when you're sick, but keep in mind you'll have to pay a deductible for each. A Medicare supplement plan can cover your deductibles and coinsurance, but you may pay higher premiums than you do with other plans, and prescription drug coverage isn't included. But with an all-in-one Humana Medicare Advantage plan, you could get all that coverage plus Part D prescription drug benefits, all for an affordable monthly plan premium, and in some areas, no plan premium. It's all described in this free book. Call for yours and discover how an all-in-one Medicare Advantage plan from Humana could save you money. There is no obligation and the book is free. Call or go online right now.
Gettle's got what you're looking for at Gettle.com. 17 new car brands, over 1,000 used vehicles, prices and payments you can afford. Credit help if you need it, and they pay cash for your old car. Plus, Gettle Pre-Owned Certified Plus means buying with peace of mind. Need service? Gettle's got that too. Gettle's got it. Visit Gettle.com.
So I kind of grew up all across the country. I come from 5 generations of military men. My dad is still active duty. My grandpa is retired Marines. I like going for runs with my dog. I love, taking her out to the dog beach over in Venice. There are so many things here to do on the Suncoast. My goal every day when I come into work at ABC7 is to tell your stories, give you that major local news and those details that you really care about. I'm Jacqueline Matter, and I'm here for you.
A home can be much more than just a house. But for some of our neighbors, home means uncertainty and isolation. At Rebuilding Together, we turn houses into homes and revitalize our communities. Because a neighborhood is more than just houses and streets. It's familiar faces and open arms. Join the movement to ensure everyone can live in a safe home and community. Become a rebuilder today.
Checking primetime headlines, President Trump honoring 9/11 victims today in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. That's where United Flight 93 crashed in the field after those on board decided to fight the terrorists on board. Natasha Chen shows us how each memorial today reminded us to never forget.
My Uncle Martin Lizzle, we love you, we miss you.
In New York, at the Pentagon,
Staff Sergeant Madeline A. White.
And in Shanksville, Pennsylvania.
Flight Attendant C.C. Ross Lyles.
People read the names of nearly 3,000 loved ones who were killed 17 years ago on September 11th. President Trump honored the passengers and crew of United 93.
We remember the moment when America fought back.
The 40 people on that flight learned other planes had crashed into the Twin Towers and the Pentagon and voted to fight the hijackers. They took control of the plane and forced it down into a Pennsylvania field. Investigators later learned the hijackers intended to target the U.S. Capitol or the White House.
America will never forget.
The phrase never forget becomes even more important on this anniversary, considering today's teenagers were born after 9/11. Vice President Mike Pence underscored that message at the Pentagon, saying these ceremonies are meant to honor the victims, but also to ensure each succeeding generation knows what happened and why.
We must learn the lessons of 9/11 and remain ever vigilant in the defense of our nation and our people.
Former Pennsylvania Governor Mark Schweiker said we must tell their story.
When you do, tell everyone it was here that freedom took its dramatic stand.
In Washington, I'm Natasha Chen.
President Trump is actually touting his administration's widely criticized response to Hurricane Maria in Puerto Rico as an incredible unsung success. Earlier this month, the island's governor raised the death toll from 64 to 2,975 following a study by researchers at George Washington University. But in the Oval Office today, the president praised the job FEMA and law enforcement did in Puerto Rico.
The job that FEMA and law enforcement and everybody did working along with the governor in Puerto Rico, I think was tremendous. I think that Puerto Rico was an incredible unsung success.
San Juan Mayor Carmen Yulín Cruz, who has been a vocal critic of the administration's handling of the storm, cast blame on the federal government for failing to provide adequate assistance in the aftermath of the storm. A new CNN poll finds Americans are divided on whether the Senate should confirm Brett Kavanaugh to the U.S. Supreme Court. It found 38% say senators should confirm him and 39% said they shouldn't. Contentious hearings did not change the public's opinion of Kavanaugh. The new numbers are similar to CNN's August poll, when 37% supported his confirmation and 4 in 10 did not. At that time, Kavanaugh had the lowest level of support for a Supreme Court nominee since Robert Bork, whose nomination was rejected by the Senate in 1987. Defense Secretary James Mattis saying some of the human remains returned to the U.S. from North Korea had been identified as U.S. troops. The service members were killed decades ago while fighting the Korean War. North Korea returned their remains this summer after President Trump summited with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Mattis praised the work of those involved in the identification process and said it represents long-awaited closure for some families. He confirms 2 sets of remains were identified and further identification efforts are underway. Mattis added U.S. and North Korean officials are discussing the return of additional remains. And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night.